Good morning to all you awesome people. I welcome you all on our YouTube channel JPSC Simplified. Let's crack JPSC. So, in the previous lectures, we have discussed Section 3 and Section 4 of the SPT Act of 1949, and in today's lecture, we will continue thereon. Okay, so Section number 5, it talks about rent and it consists of clauses from 43 to 52. Now let's see clause number 43 first. Clause number 43, it says that rent in kind not to be realized or recognized by any court. That is, rent has to be paid in cash only. Rent in kind will not be realized or recognized. Okay. Now, clause number 44, it says that Rayyat, village headman and Mool Rayyat, they are not liable to transferee of landlords or Mool Rayyat's interest for rent paid to former landlord or Mool Rayyat without notice of transfer. Okay? See, clause number 44, it tells that if the Rayyat without his without receiving any notice of transfer of the land from one landlord to other landlord, if he pays the rent to the old landlord, then he is not liable to uh, pay the rent to the new landlord because he hasn't received any notice of the transfer, so it was not his fault that he has given the rent to the old landlord. Okay, so this is talked in clause number 44. Now clause number 45, it tells us about the payment of rent by postal money order. That is, rent can be paid by postal money order also. Okay. Now, clause number 46. Now, what does clause number 46 tells? Clause number 46 tells us the maintenance of account of rent of each rayyat by village headman, mool rayyat or landlord. That is, it is the duty of the village headman, mool rayyat or the landlord to maintain the account of rent of each rayyat. Okay. Now, clause number 46, it talks about receipts of rent and interest thereon. Okay. That is, when a rayyat pays the rent, okay, he will receive the receipt of that rent and interest thereon. So this is talked in clause number 47. Now we will move to clause number 48. Clause number 48 talks about the state government to prepare forms of receipts and statement of accounts. So whose uh, duty is to prepare forms of receipts and state of accounts? So it is the duty of state government. Okay, that point you have to remember. So this type of questions will only be asked to you, that they will not ask you that what is given in clause number 48 or what is given in clause number 49. Okay, it is impossible to remember 72 clauses here and 271 clauses in the CNT Act, but the major points, the major takeaways you have to remember from the whole law. Okay, now clause number 49, it talks about rent to be first change on holdings. Okay, rent to be first change on holdings. This is not very important, so leave it. Okay, now clause number 50, it talks about reduction of rents for special reasons. Okay, clause number 51, it talks about duration of reduction of rent. Clause number 52, it talks about penalty for exaction by landlord etc from tenant of anything in excess of the rent payable. That is, if the landlord, apart from the rent, if he asks for any extra payment from the rayyat, then he is liable to punishment. This is given in clause number 52. Okay, so this was section number 5, which talked about rent, and it contained clauses from clause number 43 to clause number 52. Now we will start Section number 6, it talks about acquisition of land by landlord, and only clause number 53 comes under this section. Okay, so you know that clause number 53, it talks about acquisition of land by landlord for building and other purposes. That is, the landlord can acquire any rayat's land if there is any purpose of construction of building and any other purpose, and for that reason the landlord can acquire the land. And yes, one important thing I have taught you in the first lecture of the SPT Act, that clause number 53 is not under the ninth schedule, and except clause number 53, every other clause has been put in the ninth schedule by our government. Okay, the 66th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1990, you should remember it. Okay, now let's move to section number 7. Section number 7, it talks about judicial procedure. What it talks about? Judicial procedure related to SPT Act. In that, first we will talk about, see, judicial procedure, that is section number 7. It consists of clauses from clause number 54 to clause number 63. Okay, now clause number 54, it talks about that the power of the state government to frame rules regarding the procedure. So the power to frame rules regarding the procedure lies with whom? It lies with state government. Okay. So a question may be asked to you in the examination that with whom the power to frame rules regarding the procedure under SPT Act of 1949 resides. It is either with deputy commissioner or the commissioner or the SDO or the state government. So the right option will be the state government. Okay. Now clause number 55, it talks about successive suits against Rayat for recovery of rent. Okay, that is, no successive suit within 6 months of previous suit for the same land holding. That is clause number 55. It says that if a Rayat has not given the rent for that land and you have filed a suit in deputy commissioner's court, so for the rent, so within 6 months you cannot file another suit regarding the uh, rent purpose. Okay, so after 6 months you can file a successive suit, but within 6 months of filing the first suit regarding the rent you cannot file another suit. This is talked in clause number 55. So more than remembering the fact under clause number 55, you should remember that within 6 months of the previous suit you cannot file the other suit. Okay, regarding the rent purpose. For other purpose you can file a suit, but regarding the rent purpose you can't. Now clause number 56, it talks about ejectment. Okay, and clause number 57, it talks about appeals. That is, if any Rayyat has been ejected, he can appeal in the deputy commissioner's court. Okay, so if he has been ejected, where he can appeal? He can appeal in the deputy commissioner's court, and this you must remember. So a question may be asked to you that if any Rayyat has been ejected, he can appeal, and four options will be given to you, like with the state government, with the SDO, with the commissioner, or with the deputy commissioner. So the right answer would be the deputy commissioner. Okay. Now clause number 58. Clause number 58 talks about the second appeal. That is, second appeal can be made in deputy commissioner's court against any order of SDO or any other official by any other official of deputy commissioner. Got it? That is, second appeal can be made in deputy commissioner's court against any order of SDO or any other official of deputy commissioner. So where? In the deputy commissioner's court. Okay, remember this. Now clause number 59, it talks about revision. That is, the commissioner or the deputy commissioner on his own or otherwise may pass such order in the case as he thinks fit. So who holds the power to revise the verdict? So the commissioner or the deputy commissioner. Okay. Now we will move to clause number 60. It talks about review. That is, deputy commissioner or commissioner order can be reviewed in the commissioner's court. Okay, so deputy commissioners or commissioner's order can be reviewed where? It can be reviewed in the commissioner's court. Okay, now clause number 61, it talks about that the order not revisable only on technical grounds. That is, until and unless there is wrongdoing of justice, appeal against deputy commissioner orders. Okay, so until and unless there is any evidence of wrongdoing, okay, order cannot be revised. This is given in clause number 61. Now clause number 62, it talks about control over deputy commissioner and deputy collectors. That is, over deputy commissioner, control will be of the commissioner, and over deputy collectors, the control will be of deputy commissioner. Got it? Deputy commissioner basically collector. Okay. Now, clause number 63, it talks about bar to suits. That is, no suit shall be entered in any court against order of deputy commissioner. So, a question may be asked to you in the examination that whether a suit can be entered in any court against the order of deputy commissioner under Santhal Pargana Tenancy Act of 1949. So, the answer would be clear no. Okay, now we will move to section number 8. Section number 8, it talks about limitations under SPT Act of 1949. So it contains clauses from clause number 64 to clause number 66. Okay, three clauses comes under this section. So clause number 64, it talks about general rule of limitation. That is, within 1 year, within 1 year from the date of accruing of the cause of action. Okay. Now, clause number 65, it talks about limitations for ejectment suits. That is, an application for ejectment of a rayyat on the ground mentioned in section 14 shall be made within 2 years from the date of misuse of complaint of. Very, very important. That is, if a rayyat misuses the land, so, and if you want to appeal for his ejectment, you should appeal within 2 years from the date of the misuse of complaint. Okay. Now, clause number 66, it talks about limitations for appeals. What it talks about? Limitations for appeal. That is, in deputy commissioner's court, you should appeal within I think it has been reversed. That is, within deputy commissioner's court, you can uh, appeal within 60 days. Okay, and within commissioner's court, you can appeal within 90 days. Okay, so please reverse this. Reverse this. It is, I think, by mistake I have reversed that days. That is, with deputy commissioner you can appeal within 60 days, and with commissioner you can appeal within 90 days. And obviously this makes sense because deputy commissioner is a lower authority than commissioner. So first you will go to deputy commissioner, then you will move to commissioner. No, and that's why with deputy commissioner you can appeal within 60 days, and with commissioner you can appeal within 90 days. Okay, so I think you got clause number 66. Now we will move to our last section, that is section number 9. There are miscellaneous provisions here, and it contains clauses from clause number 67 to clause number 72. Okay, so in clause number 66, it talks about penalties if anyone violates this law. Which law? SPT Act of 1949. 3-year imprisonment or 1000 rupees fine or both, and If crime continues, fine of rupees 50 per day. So this you must remember. Okay. Clause number 68, it talks about service of notice on landlord. Okay. Clause number 69, it talks about bat to acquisition of right over certain lands. Clause number 70, recovery of dues. And clause number 71, power to make rules. Okay, so with whom the power to make rules lies? So the state government by notification make rules under this act. Who makes rule under this act? So the state government, my dear friends, state government makes rule. Okay. And lastly, clause number 72, it talks about some special procedures which we don't require. Okay, that is, we don't have to go into that much detail. Important aspects of the SPT Act we should know. So finally, we are done with the SPT Act, and I think our discussion was enough from the examination point of view. And I think if you will revise 2 or 3 times, you will be very much thorough with this SPT Act of 1949. And please practice some of the questions. In the next lecture, I will try to inculcate some of the questions that has been asked from SPT Act in the last PT paper, and some mock questions also I will try to come up with. So this was all for today's lecture. We will meet again in the next lecture. Till then, read, revise, enjoy, and please subscribe and share the video if you liked it. Okay, thank you.